I'm at my limit. I'm filing for divorce and leaving.
What? What about taking care of my mom? If you leave, I'll demand alimony.
For 10 years, I juggled caregiving for my mother-in-law, housework, raising kids, and even a part-time job. It was a relentless life with no days off. If my husband, Ryan, had been supportive, I might have endured. But Ryan spent his days lazing around, doing nothing but goofing off. He was a wannabe lawyer who had devolved into a useless man full of empty promises. Ignoring his empty threats about alimony, I submitted the divorce papers and immediately contacted my father, George. I had kept silent to avoid worrying him, but I couldn't solve this on my own anymore. So my father and I came up with a plan. A week later, Ryan began bombarding me with tearful, desperate calls. It was too late for regrets. Ryan would come to understand the meaning of those words firsthand. My name is Catherine Jones. Ryan and I started dating in college, and we got married right after graduation. At first, we lived a happy life together. Ryan's family was well known in our small town for their prestigious background. Both of his parents were accomplished lawyers. His father had passed away young due to illness, leaving his mother, Sarah, to live alone. I had always gotten along well with Sarah, to the point that we often had meals together. She treated me like her own daughter. While stories of strained relationships between mothers and daughters-in-law are common, I never imagined that would be my story. So when Ryan suggested we live with his mother after getting married, I didn't resist at all. I thought Sarah would be lonely by herself, and I looked forward to life with such a kind mother-in-law. Besides, Ryan planned to study under Sarah to pursue his goal of becoming a lawyer himself. I still remember how disappointed he was when he failed the bar exam, despite his efforts during school. Yet, he remained determined not to give up.
I want to become a lawyer like my parents. Please give me a little more time to try.
Sarah even offered to help with living expenses, so money was not an issue. Though the first few years were tough, I genuinely wanted to support Ryan as his wife. However, 3 years passed, and Ryan still hadn't become a lawyer. Worse yet, his life grew increasingly self-indulgent. At first, he would spend hours studying in his office every day. But over time, he spent less time with his books and more time slacking off. He made excuses to avoid working with Sarah, even though he claimed he was studying.
I'm trying my best, but I also need time for myself, you know?
I get that, but can you really become a lawyer at this pace?
Don't worry about it. Anyway, I want steak for dinner tonight, okay?
Ryan brushed off my concerns and often went out to hang around. Even Sarah began to doubt him.
Does he really want to become a lawyer? Catherine, it must be stressful for you.
Sarah was considerate of my feelings, but I knew that if Ryan didn't start working soon, she wouldn't be able to retire. I took care of all the household chores to lighten the load, but it didn't seem to be enough. I'll get a part-time job. That way you can take on less work too.
You're already doing so much around the house. The thought alone makes me happy.
She always cared about me. Seeing her kindness only made Ryan's irresponsible attitude even more frustrating. Whenever I seriously expressed my frustrations, he'd reflect momentarily and change his behavior, but only briefly. Honestly, confronting him was draining. But I told myself it was part of being a wife. Amid all this, I found out I was pregnant. Sarah was overjoyed by the news, and even Ryan was moved to tears.
I'm going to be a dad. I can't keep living like this. I'll step up.
The baby and I will be rooting for you. Do your best, Dad. After that, Ryan returned to his study and began studying diligently again. However, his enthusiasm didn't last more than a week. I was so exasperated that I couldn't help but pout. At this rate, you'll fail the exam again. You're going to be a father soon, so pull yourself together.
Stop nagging me. I'm just maintaining a good work-life balance. Sitting at a desk all day won't make me smarter.
With morning sickness and no mental energy to spare, I often ended up having heated arguments with Ryan. Finding it troublesome, he began spending more and more time outside. But it wasn't to study. He spent his days at the casino or fishing. By then, his dream of becoming a lawyer had long since faded. With a baby on the way, we can't go on like this. I can't rely on Ryan anymore. I'll have to handle this myself. I couldn't bear to keep burdening Sarah either. So, I decided to start doing small home-based jobs to earn a little extra income. It wasn't much, but I wanted to do something for her in return.
Thank you, Catherine. I've been feeling a bit worn out lately, and it's been hard. I'm so grateful, but please don't overwork yourself, okay?
Around that time, as Sarah mentioned, she often looked visibly tired. I made a promise to myself that once the baby was born and I could move around again, I'd start a part-time job to support her even more. A while later, my son, Tommy, was born, and life became busier than ever. Whenever he cried at night, I'd rub my tired eyes and get up to feed him, rocking him in my arms. Although Ryan had been so happy when we found out about the baby, he never helped, not even once, with Tommy's night crying. Instead, he'd plug his ears as if annoyed.
Hey, do you know what time it is? Quiet him down already.
Why don't you take care of him once in a while? You're his father, aren't you?
If I lose sleep and can't study for my qualification exams, are you planning to blame the kid for it? That makes you a terrible mom.
The nerve of him. He didn't study even when I begged him to. I was so furious that I stopped asking him to help with childcare altogether. When Tommy turned 5 and started kindergarten, I decided to take on a part-time job at the local grocery store. This brought in more income, which helped with our household finances. Sarah was happy about my new job and managed a tired but grateful smile.
I'm sorry you're carrying so much of the burden. It's time I had a serious talk with Ryan. Tommy's growing up, and he can't keep being coddled.
Sarah was ready to give Ryan a reality check on my behalf. But that same evening, everything changed drastically. Sarah suddenly collapsed. An ambulance rushed her to the hospital, where she regained consciousness in a hospital bed. Thankfully, her life wasn't in danger, but the doctor said her exhaustion had reached its limit, and she wouldn't be able to work as she had before.
I'm so sorry, Catherine. The last thing I wanted was to burden you, especially with a young child.
What are you saying? I'm the one who's sorry for letting you work so hard until now. Though she was conscious, she had to stay hospitalized for a few days. I returned home alone. There, I found Ryan feeding Tommy instant ramen. Ryan hadn't even come to the hospital after Sarah was taken by ambulance. When I called him at the time, his response had been nothing short of indifferent. He was probably at the casino again. The loud, jarring background music from his location was unmistakable. Sarah collapsed. She's in an ambulance right now. Come quickly.
Now, I'm busy and can't leave right now. Did she get into an accident or something?
No, I think it's from exhaustion. But is there really something more important than your mom? Who else would react like that to news of their parent collapsing? I was beyond angry, and I felt a cold detachment spreading through my heart.
She'll probably be fine after an 4 drip. You go to the hospital, Catherine. I'll pick up Tommy from kindergarten later. Let's divide the responsibilities, okay?
Without any trace of concern, Ryan hung up the call abruptly. His cold-heartedness left me speechless. When I returned home, I expected Ryan to show some concern or at least ask about Sarah. Instead, as always, he was watching TV and chugging beer. Next to him, Tommy sat quietly, eating instant noodles with a lonely expression. The moment Tommy saw me, he ran over and hugged me. Ryan, who had said he'd come home early, hadn't even properly cared for Tommy, and my patience finally snapped. Why are you always like this? You barely put effort into studying to become a lawyer, and when your own mom collapses, you prioritize the casino over her. What's wrong with you? I threw all the words I had held back at him, and he furrowed his brows and glared at me.
You don't get it, do you? Studying for the bar exam is hard. It's normal to fail multiple times.
I'm not angry about you failing. I'm angry that you're using the idea of becoming a lawyer as an excuse to slack off. Ryan raised his fist to intimidate me. He didn't hit me, but the intensity was enough to make my knees shake.
Having someone like you around stresses me out and keeps me from focusing on my studies. Don't make me regret marrying you.
With that, Ryan stormed out of the house and didn't come back that night. Since then, he started coming home in the early hours of the morning more and more often. I couldn't help but wonder where he was spending all that time. Sometimes, when he returned as I was getting back from dropping Tommy off at kindergarten, he reeked of a woman's perfume I didn't recognize. There was no doubt he was seeing someone at night. In the past, I might have confronted him about it, but I no longer cared to. In fact, having someone like him in the house seemed worse for Tommy. I was overwhelmed with housework, while Ryan spent his days playing around. We grew increasingly distant, and conversations between us dwindled to nothing. When Sarah was discharged from the hospital, she needed some light caregiving, and could no longer live as independently as before. Despite her own struggles, she worried more about Ryan than about herself.
Catherine, I've only caused you hardship. You're still young. Maybe it's time you started a new life.
What are you saying? I've barely had the chance to repay all you've done for me. Please don't say such things. Yes, managing part-time work, childcare, and caregiving was challenging, but there was no way I could abandon Sarah after all her support. I resolved to manage on my own without relying on Ryan. 10 years passed, and Tommy was now about to graduate middle school. Sarah was still with us, but her physical limitations had increased, requiring more intensive care. The old house, with its stairs and uneven floors, was inconvenient for her. Whenever she needed to use the restroom, I made sure to assist her. We added handrails throughout the house to improve accessibility, but that required a significant amount of money, and our previously stretched savings were now almost depleted. I didn't have any more free time to take on additional work. There were no other options left. "Sarah, can I talk to you about something?" I found myself turning to Sarah for advice. Ryan still wasn't working. On top of that, he had completely stopped studying for his qualifications. He spent all his time out drinking or gambling. And yet, when he came home, he reeked of sweet perfume from strangers. Even Tommy, now old enough to understand, could tell what Ryan was doing outside. This was our breaking point. I can't stay silent any longer. For Tommy's sake, I need to make a decision.
You're right, Catherine. I'll always be on your side. Do what you think is best. Don't worry about me.
Hearing Sarah's words gave me the push I needed to confront Ryan. That morning, I stayed up waiting for him to come home after another night out. When Ryan finally walked in and saw me sitting at the table, he tensed up for a moment.
What's with that sour look on your face? If you're bored, why don't you go pick up a part-time job or something?
"I need to talk to you. Sit down for a minute." I calmly said this, and Ryan clicked his tongue before fixing himself a coffee. He plopped down in a chair and sipped his coffee with a bored expression.
What?
"Why don't you start working seriously? Aren't you ashamed of showing Tommy such behavior?"
I already told you, I'm going to be a lawyer soon. It's your constant nagging that ruins everything.
In a fit of rage, Ryan threw hot coffee at me. Most of it splashed onto my arm, and I winced in pain. As my arm stung and Ryan continued yelling, I realized this was the moment my heart reached its limit. "I've had enough. I'm divorcing you and leaving."
What about Mom? If you leave, I'll demand alimony.
For 10 years, I had been caring for my mother-in-law, doing housework, raising our child, and working part-time. Those were 10 years without a single day of rest. If Ryan had supported me, I might have endured, but all he did was laze around and criticize me. Who would want to support someone like that? "Alimony? Don't be ridiculous. If you want to sue, go ahead and try." I went to my desk and pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared long ago. I had already filled out my part. All that was left was for Ryan to sign. When he saw the papers, his expression stiffened.
Are you serious? Think this through. If I sign this, we're divorced. You'll end up homeless.
"I'm fine with that if it means I can leave you." Ryan clicked his tongue and signed the papers.
I'm dead serious about the alimony. You're abandoning your duty to care for my family. You'll pay for that.
Once he finished signing, I snatched the papers from him. With the divorce papers in hand, I didn't need anything else. I had already packed my belongings, so I left the house immediately. After submitting the papers at City Hall, I called my father, George. I hadn't told him anything before because I didn't want to worry him, but now I couldn't keep it a secret. When I explained everything, my dad expressed his anger, but also he was proud of me.
So what's your plan now? This isn't the end of it, is it?
"No, I have a plan. For now, can I come back home tonight? I'll explain everything in detail when I get there. My dad immediately agreed. Having an understanding parent in times like these was a blessing. I'm more worried about the alimony. Ryan might actually go through with it. Even if he's a perennial failure, he knows enough to be a threat in court.
Don't worry about that. If anything happens, I'll protect you. For now, just focus on resting.
Thank you. I'd like to bring Tommy with me. Would that be okay?
Of course. We'll prepare a nice meal. Your mom will be thrilled.
Hearing my father's voice for the first time in a while brought me a sense of relief, and I almost cried. But I steeled myself for the battle ahead. Submitting the divorce papers was just the first round. The real fight starts now. Tommy and I returned to my parents' house and enjoyed a peaceful time for the first time in years. With Tommy's exams behind me and the burden of housework lifted, it felt like a dream. A week passed since the divorce was finalized. Anticipating some kind of action from Ryan, I was on guard. The evening, my phone started ringing incessantly. The second round had begun. Naturally, the caller was Ryan. When I answered, the once arrogant man's voice was now shaky and tearful.
Hey, what the hell did you do? I just got home and almost everything in the house is gone.
Since we're divorced, I had my things picked up by movers. Considering none of it was bought with your money, it's no surprise the house is empty. After all the suffering he put me through, I was determined not to leave anything behind for him. On the day the divorce was finalized, I had arranged for movers to come and take everything. They started early in the morning, so by midday, the house was likely completely empty. Ryan, who had spent all his time playing around, had never bought anything of value. Most of the items in Ryan's family home originally belonged to Sarah, but over time, they had sold many of them to cover living expenses. Nearly everything left in the house was stuff I had purchased later.
While I was out for just a little while, you cleaned out the place. That's no different from being a thief.
Sorry about that. You're always wandering off, so I asked Sarah to handle the movers.
Mom knew about this? That traitor. Doesn't she care about her own son?
Ryan spat insults as if I were the villain here. His audacity was astonishing.
Ever since you left, this house has been nothing but trouble. Just now, a realtor even sent me a ridiculous eviction notice. I'm at a loss here.
Hearing his weak voice, I couldn't help but laugh. When he mentioned the eviction notice, I knew my other plan was in motion. Ryan, still unaware, deserved an explanation. Sorry to tell you this, but that house is no longer yours.
Wait, what do you mean? What did you do this time?
I sold your family home.
You sold the house?
He repeated my words in a dumbfounded tone, clearly unable to process the situation. It was such a big and beautiful house. It didn't take long to find a buyer. Thanks to that, I can rest assured about Tommy's child support.
That's insane. Selling a house isn't that simple. There are rights and contracts. You couldn't have done it without owning it.
Exactly. That's why I had the person with the deed sell it.
You mean, Mom sold it?
Brian dashed to the bedroom, likely expecting to find Sarah there. Instead, he must have been left staring at an empty room.
Mom's gone, and so is the bed. What the hell is going on?
At last, he realized Sarah wasn't there. In truth, I had brought Sarah to my family's home. Along with retrieving my belongings, I arranged for her to come over by taxi. Now she was staying in an apartment I had already rented near my parents' house. She was listening silently to our conversation from right next to me. Sarah was troubled by your behavior, Ryan. That's why she agreed to my proposal.
That old hag. First, she stops bringing in money, and now she sides with the enemy? She's lost her mind.
Isn't it cruel to speak about your own mother like that?
I don't care. A mother who chooses some random woman over her own son isn't a mother at all.
Ryan's anger spiraled into vile words that made me want to cover my ears. Of course, he had no idea Sarah was sitting beside me. Feeling no restraint, he let loose. Hearing his outburst, Sarah calmly took the phone from me and entered the conversation.
Quite the way to talk, isn't it? As a mother, I'm ashamed of you.
Mom, why are you at Catherine's parents' house?
His voice cracked with panic, completely thrown off balance. Sarah didn't hold back.
More importantly, what's with calling me a hag? Care to explain yourself?
It's not like that. Catherine's been manipulating you and making me emotional, that's all.
Caught in his insults, Ryan stammered out excuses. But it was too late for damage control. Sarah wouldn't forgive him, nor would the house be returned. Ultimately, all Ryan had left was himself, without even a place to live. You should give up and rent a new apartment. You still have some savings left, don't you?
That won't work. Damn it. I thought I'd finally get rid of the nuisances and start new life.
By new life, do you mean with your mistress? My question made his panic even more obvious. Despite reeking of women's perfume and coming home at dawn, he seemed to believe he had hidden it well. What a naive man. I've had that matter thoroughly investigated. I never thought I'd find myself hiring a detective agency, but here we are. Before the divorce, I had already started investigating Ryan's infidelity. Sarah introduced me to an investigator she knew from her time as a lawyer, someone she trusted. Gathering evidence against Ryan, who was terrible at hiding things, was a breeze. Photos of him entering and leaving hotels, holding hands with another woman, we had it all. Ryan couldn't possibly talk his way out of this. I'll be demanding alimony for your infidelity and all the mistreatment I've endured over the years. Get ready for it.
Alimony? Are you still trying to take more from me?
Ryan screamed through tears, clinging to me with a pitiful voice.
I'm sorry for everything. It was the stress and pressure from studying that crushed me. The affair was just a way to blow off steam.
Even now, he tried to justify himself. Who in the world would forgive cheating for such a pathetic excuse? You think that's enough for me to forgive you? Don't be ridiculous. Do you have any idea how much I've suffered for over 10 years because of you?
I'm really sorry. I'll do anything you say. Just give me one more chance.
His groveling gave me an idea. Although I had planned to punish him without compromise, I decided to give him one last chance under one condition. All right, if you meet my condition, I'll reconsider the alimony.
Really? Name it. I'll do anything.
Pass the qualification exam this year.
What?
Ryan, who was so hopeful just moments ago, went pale. I didn't think my condition was that unreasonable. After all, he had supposedly been studying for over 10 years. If he had truly been serious, it wouldn't be impossible. His reaction, sweating nervously, only confirmed that his effort had been all talk.
That's impossible. This isn't like scoring 100% on a school test.
Exactly, and unlike a school test, you've had over 10 years to prepare. Should be easy, right? When I laughed and responded, Ryan's tone turned irritated.
Don't push your luck. I know you're staying at your parents' place. I could come there right now.
Feel free, but keep in mind there's a police station near my parents' house. I've already informed them about you, so you'd likely be detained before you even get here. Ryan clearly wasn't willing to risk getting arrested. He groaned in frustration, and I firmly told him, the only way for you to be forgiven is to pass that exam. If you're truly sorry, you'd better work hard.
Wait, listen.
I cut him off and ended the call. Ryan tried calling me several more times, but I didn't answer. If he wanted to prove himself, he'd have to show it through results. For once, I felt a sense of hope, curious about what he might achieve. For the next 6 months leading up to the exam, Ryan reportedly threw himself into studying, barely sleeping. With no place to live, he alternated between a net cafe and the park, carrying his textbooks and old exam papers with him. One time when I passed near him to check in from a distance, he noticed me and cried out weakly,
Catherine, I can't do this. No matter how much I study, I don't feel like I'll pass. There's no way anyone can do this in just 6 months.
Not 6 months, over 10 years. By now, failing would be more unusual, don't you think?
I haven't eaten properly in days. I miss your cooking. I can't focus on studying like this.
He complained pitifully, but I ignored him and walked away. A once arrogant man reduced to this. It was pathetic to watch. Neither Sarah nor I had any intention of easing up. No matter what he said, I was determined to hold him to the condition I set. Eventually, I heard he had taken up a part-time job at a convenience store to afford the net cafe. With even less time to sleep, he looked utterly exhausted as he worked the cashier. Now, at least, he might understand the hardships of balancing work and personal responsibilities. In addition to that, I had also been taking care of Sarah and raising Tommy. I believe experiencing such hardships firsthand became a valuable lesson for Ryan. Finally, after a tumultuous period, the day of Ryan's qualification exam results arrived. I had instructed him to check the results at my parents' house. While the outcome was still unknown, judging by Ryan's pale face, he clearly wasn't confident.
Well, I got lightheaded during the test. I wasn't feeling my best.
No excuses, just check the results already. Surrounded by me, my father, and Sarah, Ryan had no escape. He reluctantly checked the results on his phone. The screen displayed one word: failed. Ryan hadn't become a lawyer. If you had taken your studies seriously, you would have been a lawyer by now.
Wait, I was so close this time. Just one more chance. Please, just one more.
I've given you chance after chance, and you've wasted every single one along with my time, my patience, and all of our hopes. It wasn't the failures themselves that I couldn't forgive. It's a tough exam, and not everyone is suited for it. The pressure of having lawyer parents must have been significant too. But Ryan never even tried to put in real effort. All I wanted was for us to work hard together as a family. Instead, he treated me like a servant and pushed his own mother's care onto others. There's no way I could continue being a family with someone like that. The more hope I placed in him, the more he betrayed me, and the harsher reality became. So, I had no intention of giving him another chance. You should leave for today. I'll prepare the paperwork and meet with you later to discuss the alimony.
Alimony? No way. I'm not paying a cent.
With nowhere left to run, Ryan suddenly lunged at me. His desperate attempt to force compliance struck fear deep into my core.
Stop right there. I won't let you lay a finger on my daughter.
Thankfully, I had planned to meet him at my parents' house. My father quickly restrained Ryan and called the police. Ryan thrashed around in protest, but when he heard the sirens, he went quiet, seemingly resigned.
The police? Come on, this is just a domestic dispute. It doesn't have to escalate this far, right?
Do you think the police would see it that way when I fled to my parents' house and you tried to attack me only to be subdued by my father? Of course, the police didn't see it as a mere domestic spat. They promptly restrained Ryan and prepared to take him away. As he was being led out, Ryan muttered one last thing.
I really did study hard for these past 6 months. She abandoned me, and now I've got no one to go home to.
The sorrow in his voice was pathetic, almost too much to bear. If he hadn't let himself fall so far, he could have avoided this.
You need to reflect, Ryan. Find a job, any job, and start paying for what you've done. That's the only way to make things right.
Even his own mother had given up on him. Ryan, with no fight left in him, was quietly escorted into the police car. Although he was eventually released, he was issued a restraining order and prohibited from coming near my parents' home. His behavior and subsequent arrest had already spread through the neighborhood. To think, a man who had been so arrogant was now reduced to such a pitiful state. It was almost poetic. Finally, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Later, with Sarah's help as my lawyer, I filed for alimony against Ryan. The burns on my arm from the coffee he had thrown at me during our separation, combined with his history of mistreatment and infidelity, were all used as evidence. The settlement amount shot up accordingly. On top of that, I included child support for Tommy, totaling $80,000. Ryan, now without a stable place to live, was saddled with massive debt. I've heard he's been working day and night at local convenience stores and construction sites just to get by. His lack of real-world experience has left him struggling with workplace hierarchies and relationships. Recently, I saw Ryan delivering packages in the city. His face looked unbelievably haggard. 6 months ago, he had already shown signs of sleep deprivation and malnutrition, and it seemed nothing had changed. If anything, his increased work hours made his life even harsher. Ryan now lives in a rundown apartment so dilapidated, it's unclear if anyone else resides there. Of course, his mistress abandoned him, and he lives alone. Rumor has it that the mistress had her own family and is now being sued for alimony as well. The price Ryan is paying for his reckless life is immense, and his struggles are far from over. As for me, I've resumed life at my parents' home with Tommy. Whenever I do chores, my father always thanks me. It's a level of appreciation I hadn't felt in years, making me feel like I've returned to the happiness of my childhood. Tommy, surprisingly, had anticipated this outcome and applied to a high school close to my parents' house.
I was disappointed in Dad too, so I'm glad things turned out this way. From now on, I'll help with chores and anything else, so you can count on me.
Having learned what not to do from Ryan's example, Tommy has grown into a kind and dependable young man. He occasionally helps with chores and even assists with Sarah's care, which is a tremendous help. Sarah now lives in a nearby apartment, receiving weekly assistance from a caregiver. With no more money wasted on Ryan, she can afford to spend more on herself and seems to enjoy her newfound freedom. Even after the divorce, Sarah and I have maintained our bond. Lately, our favorite pastime has been going to a cafe together on occasional Sundays. It feels as though I'm reclaiming the elegant moments I had missed out on for so long, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this new chapter of my life.